Welcome to the YoggNation, the Spread of Gratitude podcast on the One Integration platform. Hello, friends. My name is Yogesh Patel, and this podcast explores the themes of bullying, self-awareness, and the power of our inner spirit, including the silent battles we all face. Join me every week as I invite high-profile guests as we explore how adversity shapes us, how gratitude lifts us, and how we can all uncover the inner strength that we all have within ourselves. Join the conversation. I appreciate you listening in.
What does it mean when a voice on the radio becomes part of your family without ever stepping into the living room? For over 20 years, Damon Bruce has been one of the most recognizable voices in San Francisco Bay Area sports talk, having anchored shows on ESPN Radio, KNBR, and now hosting his flagship, The Damon Bruce Show, on YouTube. What makes Damon stand out isn't just the headlines or the hot takes. It's the way his words have bonded fathers and sons together and have bridged generations. His greatest compliment, when listeners tell him, "You've been a part of my family," and that must be very humbling to hear those words. Damon isn't just a sports talk show host. He's a storyteller who turns games into life lessons, reminding us that sports are more than just wins and losses. They're about who we become along the way. With gratitude, welcome to the podcast, Damon.
Thank you so much for having me. What a lovely introduction. And I tell you, I want to just thank you for having me. And what you said is really true. When people tell you that they've been part of their family conversations and they listen to my show with their dads and now listen or consume things I do with their sons, I think to myself, number one, wow, I'm getting old. And number two, it's incredible to be a part of someone's life like that because, there's a very, very intimate connection that radio used to have with an audience. And I don't know if that audience even exists anymore or if that media exists currently right now like it used to, but I was I was able to be a part of a golden age of radio where you really made these incredible connections with people and the stories that they would tell and share and the way that I was included in the way that they would bond with their family. It was so humbling and it meant an awful lot.
Why do you think sports is like that? I mean, why do you think this, amongst anything else we do in our lives, brings people together?
I think it definitely tickles the funny bone of passion, right? And just being passionate about something as we sort of meander through life, it feels good. Your serotonin levels go off when you're excited about a big game or getting together with your friends to watch. I think it's a communal event. It's one of the last and sadly few communal events that we have. That's why it's a shame that so many people have been priced out of going to games because it is a very expensive proposition, but it's a wonderful gathering point. It's a town square where we really, have all sort of retreated into the palm of our own hands in social media. It's a place to come together and feel emotional about something. And, the beauty of it all is it doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter where I'm from, doesn't matter what our backgrounds are at all. We're here together rooting for Team X. And that's what unites us right now. And I'm going to high five total strangers when things go good. And we're all going to get angry together when things go bad. And emotions with strangers are good. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. And it just connects people. It connects generations of family members. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know how to talk to their older family members, but through the bond that sports just provides. It's a touch point for maybe generations that have fewer touch points. So I think just sports remains a beautiful part of our stories, our local stories. Sports are provincial. It's about hometowns. It's about families and grandfathers and grandmas and moms and dads. And it feels like family.
Do you think it's also escaping reality too, with the problems and challenges that everyone has, that we all face? Sports is that one thing where we can just say, let me just see if, Carlos Alcaraz can win against Yannick Sinner.
I've always said I work in the toy department. And I love that I work in the toy department because so many other departments, which are so much more serious and certainly deserve our time and attention, this is a place where you can go to escape. And I feel like escaping to a place where we can unite in one common interest. That's a good common interest, as I think appealing to people, and it always has been. And right now, you look at ratings in the industry and the way that people lean into NFL games, it's the most consumed mass media event we have in our country right now. Football games. It's undeniable. And I don't know if that's a good reflection or a bad reflection. I don't know, but it is who we are.
Well, I think there's also that element, again, to the theme of the podcast. There's that sense of gratitude. Again, as you mentioned, it's a shared experience that you're just grateful that you're able to experience this with another individual.
It's important. I feel like we've, in many ways retreated, like I said earlier, into the palm of our own hands with social media and computer screens, and we're surrounded by screens. And, as I talk to you in my camera right now, I've got 5 open screens just within my purview. I mean, it's incredible how we insulate ourselves. And in a world where we can connect like never before, we're as disconnected, maybe more than ever before, from people. So I just think it's one of the few remaining town halls that we have, and we need more town halls.
Yes, and it actually starts at the neighborhood playground, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I've got 2 young boys right now. Watching them assimilate to a new playground that they're, new at, or watching playgrounds that they're familiar with and other kids now come on their turf. It's a beautiful little social experiment watching it all happen. And I've always said, sports don't build character, they reveal it. It's how I end my show. It's not my saying. That is John Wooden who came up with that. But I've always used that quote to end my show, like almost every show I've ever hosted. And people bring it up to me. And I think people connect with that. Like, I don't know if this playground activity that my child is doing right now is going to instill character in him, but maybe what his character is going to come out of him in this moment. And I see that in the development of my kids, and when they're good sports and when they're bad sports, and when they get up and brush something bad off, or when they make a big deal out of something that really shouldn't have affected it. It's amazing watching the development of my kids through the prism of sports. They're still so young. They're really not involved even in team sports. It's at the playground level, like you were saying. But sports brings out who I think you really are inside. I've always said, like money or winning the lottery. Winning the lottery would reveal an awful lot about who you really are. If you're a good person who wants to spread love and help, you would use that money to do so. Maybe if you are more of a selfish person, that would be easily revealed in that process too. So I think sports and reveals who you are.
Well, I also think that sports is also a metaphor in life, right? You would face adversity, you face challenges, you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and then you move on. It's that resilient spirit that I think sports maybe teaches, and the word is teaches. You don't necessarily internalize it. You see it within others, and you see it within yourself as you develop and grow into the character person that you are.
I think it really develops us a lot socially with who we are, with like in internal sports, like a sport like golf, where you are your own official at the same time, and it's the honor system. Individual sports bring out and develop a certain muscle in your personality that team sports sort of work on a whole other different muscle in your personality, and knowing how to, when to lead, where to, when to wear beige and kind of blend in. You have a totally different experience on team sports as opposed to individual sports. And it's just, it's part of, it's not just a metaphor. It's really happening. Like, that's the thing. There's a reality to sports where we're not just talking about metaphorically 3 strikes and you're out. No, this is literally 3 strikes and you're out. Here it is. This is your plate appearance. This is happening right now. And there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah, and I also think that sports also helps teach you how to resolve conflict.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How you react to winning and losing. Again, it's one of those, it won't build your character, but it will reveal it. Are you a good winner? Are you a poor loser? It's amazing how many people handle winning as poorly as some people handle losing. And sport reflects that.
How do you handle winning poorly? Is it just spiking the football in front of you?
Oh, arrogance, cockiness, becoming overly braggadocious or too confident, or just being a social media troll about it. It's like it's not enough for me to win and feel good about it. I got to make you feel bad that you lost. There's an element to.
What are the majority of professional athletes that and coaches that you've interviewed? Are they more humble and cocky, or excuse me, cocky and arrogant, or cocky and humble?
I find an awful lot of athletes definitely lean into the humility level of how they have approached their career. They know that it hangs in the balance of a personal injury could change anything at any time. So I think they're grateful for the opportunity. They're certainly grateful for the reward, which can be overwhelming, at many levels. Um, and I think yeah, there is a humility to the professional athlete because they understand how, pardon me, they understand how 1% they really are. I mean, to become a professional athlete, you have so separated yourself from the very, 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 very good. Like the very, 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 very good still ain't the pros. The pros are at a level of, we'll show you how the single worst major leaguer you can find is incredible at playing Major League Baseball. It's just rough out there because everybody's a pro. I mean, it's.
I think that's raw talent, or is it just years of uh, of perfecting the craft?
Well, I think at the ultimate professional level, there is no faking a level of talent. You can't just guile your way to a professional career. You have to have a physical standard that you meet to reach the level of competition in this league. So there is an element of certainly what you're born with, but how hard do you work? It's not quite the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. How determined are you to, I tell my 6-year-old, character is who you are when no one is looking, which means, are you going to do your homework without me asking you to do it? Do you just do your homework? Are you going to pick up the coloring book and the crayons when you're done? Am I going to have to remind you to do that? Do you just do the right thing without having to be told to do it? And every single professional athlete you've ever met has spent more hours working on their craft than they do on the stage under the big bright lights. And it's an incredible endeavor to be a professional athlete.
Well, I'm curious to find out if you are allowed to share, and that is, what's the most Ted Lasso like athlete or coach you've ever met? Someone who leads with belief and kindness instead of ego.
Oh, it's Steve Kerr. I mean, far and away, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is.
He's idolized here at the University of Arizona, which is where I live in Tucson.
Steve is genuinely one of the most thoughtful, caring, like legitimately good people I've ever had the pleasure of talking to, not in any interview process, but just in my life. Like, Steve Kerr is good people. Steve Kerr, if something.
Doesn't he yell and scream though when he needs to be?
Oh, well, that's all part of it. That's part of the deal. That's.
So how can you be kind? Again, I'm just want to be able to understand, right? You can be kind, you can be selfless, yet you can still light a fire in people's, what?
Emotions flare in an emotional environment like sports, and I think you have to have some thick skin. Just in the world, I think I think developing a thicker skin, as we're talking about gratitude, is something that the world needs to work on. We need to start having a little I'm I'm rubber, you're glue, your bad words bounce off me and stick to you. We could use a little thicker skin out there. Um, but Steve Kerr is a level of kind that you get a lot more of than any developing of thick skin. This was a guy who was such a competitor. Michael Jordan punched him one day in practice. If you are that pesky where you're going to get Michael Jordan to throw a punch at you, you're a competitor. And in that punch, a bond was formed that only makes sense in the world of sports. We would not recommend this is how you bond with someone in any other world or realm of business, but sports are their own little world that people and the alpha male exists in, and it's all part of it. And so anyway, Steve Kerr, like if something terrible were to happen to me, like I would trust Steve Kerr to get it right with my family, much less a basketball team. I'm like,
is there anything in particular he said to you that made you perhaps change your perspective?
well, I think what it really was more than anything. It's the volume of conversations I've had with Steve Kerr. He was a weekly guest on my show through the basketball season, through the almost entirety of the Warriors, certainly at the top of their dynasty. So we're listening to a man having a level of success.
I'm sorry. I thought he also did that with Tom Tolbert as well.
He did do that with Tom as well. And the reason why is because they were both Arizona guys. I think one was another guy's groomsman in their wedding. Like they're real friends. They're
I'm sorry. Just a little side note, but please continue.
Yeah, they're real world friends. And so the advantage that I was supposed to have as a talk show host with having the Warriors exclusively on my show was done in by this incredibly unique situation that, of course would be happening to me, but it didn't matter because I think you got two totally different sorts of interviews. One that was, a little bit more, matter of fact and business like, and a little which one and one which was chummier and brought out different elements. And I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was, yeah. Anyway, back to Steve. I mean, hundreds of 20-minute long conversations I've had with this guy, and who you really are while you are having hundreds of those conversations at the pinnacle of your success, I think reveals a lot who you are. Like I said, some people handle success poorly. Steve Kerr handled his success with more humility and grace and aplomb than you could ever imagine. He would even say, like, Damon, this is the imaginary NBA. What we're doing, right? Kevin Durant is here. Like, this isn't real. Enjoy this. This is Xanadu. This is not real. Even though it is real and it's happening, this is not the real NBA. For us, we are at this moment in time where all the stars have aligned and we are this monster.
But there's a lot of pressure to perform. And I guess, again, that's one of the things that I always take away from sports is with all of that gravity on you, right? Some it's self-directed, some it's by outside external factors. You're still able to perform under pressure.
It's incredible how the spotlight is so on these guys 24 hours. It's not even during the game or the post-game interview anymore. It's social media buzzing about you 24 hours a day. It's a kid in Nebraska who's angry that you dropped a pass in a game that made him lose his fantasy football game that is just riding you. A kid.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, that's an area that I want to explore as well because, as sports talk show hosts like yourself, you are often targets yourselves of criticism. And how do you cope with that backlash, personal attacks, or even maybe threats that come from passionate fan bases, and knowing that perhaps at times you are an instigator of these types of conversations, respectfully speaking?
I humbly answer, thick skin. Thick skin. We're right back to the topic of thick skin. And I think if anyone who's got a public facing forward job, whether you look into a camera or speak into a microphone, if you're putting yourself out there, people will come at you just for having the gall the audacity to be putting yourself out there in the first place. I'm sure this is something.
I think there's a component here of bullying as well, because, again, if I happen to look at a middle school teenager who's trying to overcome something where they have been bullied with or cyberbullied, or, go out, let's go meet in the park at 3 o'clock. There is that thick skin element that I think we all need to have. And again, a lot of this podcast focuses on the themes of our self-awareness and our inner spirit in order for you to be the best version of yourself. And that also means defending yourself or sensing where things are coming into harm's way.
Well, and I think this is I think a hard message to deliver to a generation of kids who've grown up online in a way that I did not grow up online. I didn't receive my first email until I was in college. There was no internet when I was a teenager.
Was it Telnet? Because that's what I used. University of Washington.
Oh no, my first, no, it was an indiana.edu address. It was my college email address. It was my first email address. I'm like, what do you mean when I press send, they get it? How long does it take to get delivered? How long? What do you mean? Like, I watched the internet happen when I was in college. Like, I remember going to the library to look at the internet. What's that? It was literally being invented. So, there's a world that your teenage daughter has grown up in that I did not experience as a teenager. And I think my life might have been better off for it because I was not exposed to a level of bullying and cyber attention that is overwhelming for adults, much less teenagers, much less children. Adults aren't wired to be overwhelmed by social media and constant messaging, much less a developing young mind. So that's a scary thing. And I think it's something that parents need to be concerned with. It's something that we all need to be concerned with. We have ruined, I think we've ruined the way a generation talks to each other or assumes or presumes how people talk to each other because they've learned it on the internet instead of the town hall gatherings that we were talking about at the very beginning of this conversation. You're not really in the same person anymore. You used to hurt someone's feelings. You would see that you hurt their feelings and your empathy would develop in that moment. If you don't see the hurt feelings, you don't develop the empathy in the moment. And this is where I think a generation of kids has been done wrong by growing up online. It really, really stinks.
Boy, that's the $1 billion question, and that is how to impart some of the things that we grew up in and in today's generation society to move forward. It's hard.
Kids aren't allowed to be kids anymore. Kids aren't allowed to be kids. There is a pressure to grow up and grow up fast and present yourself as more grown up and more sophisticated. And, again, 30-year-old adults fall into these trappings. Imagine if you still had a young teenage mind and how addictive it would be. We have built the ultimate anger machine. When I look at social media, that's what I think about it. What is Twitter? It's the world's most expertly designed anger machine. And it just amplifies anger more than we've used the internet to share all the wealth and knowledge in our society.
Well, Damon, don't say that, because that's what this podcast aims to serve, and that is there's not enough wisdom on social media, right? There isn't quality messaging to help young adults and adolescents overcome a challenge that they may have in life, whether it is bullying or fighting their own inner demons. And that's why I hope that this small sliver of YoggNation, right, the spirit of gratitude, hopefully can get its message amplified to the right audience.
Well, I think what YoggNation is doing is beautiful. If putting something on the internet to be genuinely kind and warm, it's how about this? In my line of work, I don't get to do that very often. I don't get to be the kind, warm sports talk host very often. So
I wouldn't survive 10 seconds on Sports Talk Radio.
to be here with you today is a whole different gear than I'm normally having. So it's nice to be able to know that I still have this gear.
Well, hopefully your fans and your family and those around you can appreciate the messaging that you are sharing perhaps knowing a different side of you that is different than on screen or on mic.
Well, I tell you, thank you, thank you. One of the things that's really changed, from who I was to who I am is we all get older and move on with our lives. I don't think that there's any element of me getting older that ever changed the way I look and feel about the world than having kids. Like that is to me the ultimate game changer. And that's what turned me into somebody who said, yeah, okay, let's do a conversation about being more grateful in the world, because I want to raise grateful children who are proud of where they are growing up. And the most diverse city, I think, in the world in San Francisco. And I love that I'm raising them here. I want my kids to grow up in a world that it feels like an awful lot of the world is fighting against that world. And it's just a weird, weird time in the world to see how much ingratitude there seems to be all around us. So thank you for having me today. I came on here because I'm so grateful that I have healthy, happy kids, and I would like them to stay that way as long as possible.
And I think it boils down to how you are raising them to be good people.
That's it. That's it. And no baby shark. We go right to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. We go right to Led Zeppelin. The other day, my kid, my 6-year-old, said, "Dad, is that Pink Floyd?" And I was like, yes, I'm doing it right. "Dad, the Grateful Dead's from San Francisco." Yes, I am doing it right.
So I've got two girls, ages 24 and 21, and I brought them on Death Row Records, with Suge Knight, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, the Dog Pound. And I always like to tease people that the extra G in YoggNation can either stand for gratitude or gangsta. So,
well, if anyone asks me, I'll tell them what's up, OG. Thanks for having me, Yog. I do appreciate it. And keep it real.
Q. Great way to end the segment. And again, for the citizens of YoggNation, who I like to call the listeners, boy, what an inspiring episode this was. I mean, I think what Damon really revealed is kind of a vulnerable side of him in terms of how there's certainly the parental struggles, but more and less in general, what life teaches you about yourself and how you can do good by serving others in the world of sports, that bringing that sense of community and belonging together. Damon, I will give you the last word. Is there anything that I missed in this conversation, beautiful conversation, by the way, that you'd like to share to the audience?
Tweet less. Just stay away from the anger machine. I think you'll be happier if you do. I try to stay away from it. I think it's helped me. I think being online less has definitely helped me. I've gone out of my way to be it. I'm still failing miserably of my goal of trying to be almost online never, but it's and when you are, then maybe put out nice things, which is again why I wanted to join you today, because YoggNation, you are getting something very nice put into your world by someone who cares about the world enough to do it. So it was a pleasure to join you today. Thank you. Anything you should be worried about the Nick Bosa injury. That could really hurt the 49ers season. I'll leave you with that.
I'm more of a college football fan with, surprisingly, the University of Washington, which is where I went to school. Go Huskies.
Then please let me tell you about my Indiana Hoosiers.
No. We don't need to go there.
No. Because you want to talk about gratitude? I am so grateful for what is happening right now. Indiana football was the doormat that major college football wiped its cleats off on. We had become worse than Kansas, worse than Duke, worse than Wake Forest. We were worse than Northwestern. We were the worst major college football program in America. We won 11 games last year. We're a top 10 football team right now. The unbelievable has happened. The unthinkable. The basketball school that fielded a football team has happened. And I'm as grateful for that as anything in the world right now. So that's what I'm grateful for. And that's
Well, there is a Washington Husky connection. Again, we plucked Coach DeBoer and Michael Penix from Indiana to UW.
tell me about it. I mean, so it is from now on, it is the Michael Penix that bonds us.
I'll take that.
There you go. Beautiful.
Thanks, Damon. Take care.
Thank you, Yo.